Thank you. I think I've listened to two wonderful talks, okay, from the Tarotani-san and also from the President Fan. Okay, so I'm going to ask some general questions, then maybe some specific one for each of you. I think the first question, I was inspired by President Fan's speech about the intelligent manufacturing, particularly for the design for manufacturing. You have a personal experience of how difficult that would be, right? Yeah. Also, I think Tarotani-san also have the experience. But these two guys left. Okay. Siemens is also always talking about CPS, digital twin, and the design for manufacturing in the cyberspace. I don't know, maybe I should ask him again. Okay, so, but I remember one experience of mine is that in the textile industry, when they have an order to make a certain type of fabric, I was amazed that the design for manufacturing is machine dependent. In other words, they may have 5 machines with the same functionality, but the performance are different. So the on-site technician, he knows, okay, what kind of fabric should go to which machine. So if we select wrong machine, you will get different type of output. I was amazed at why. I mean, suppose we make machine all uniformly, but it's not the case, okay? So, facing that kind of difficulty, how do we implement the idea of design for manufacturing? We still want to implement that kind of idea, right? Through some technical methods, whatever. So maybe you can share to us that how do you improve your process of design for manufacturing? Okay, let's start from Tarotani-san.
Thank you. A little bit difficult question for me, but I try to answer that question. And first I want to speak about the process of the IGBT, something like that. The design rule is not so small as compared to the very intelligent, high super advanced ICs process. So the process rule is very wide, about 130 nanometers, such like that. But in depth direction, there needs very fine control of the structure. So it is the nano size control is needed for the IGBT. And then silicon carbide also needs the depth control of the process needs some nanometer scale. So this kind of control is, of course, the process tool A is okay, but process tool is B is not okay. This kind of is also happening in the production field. So the full design of the production by some calculating is very difficult. And so in the real production area, so we need some monitoring process and adjustment of that process. This kind of loop is necessary. So this is the reality of the power device module fabrication area. And so not so higher intelligent ICs, the processes are more and more finite and more thin, but power device needs very long some annealing time or control and or depth etching of the holes. So this kind of technologies, the machine control is very difficult by full automated control. So we need some modification or fitting of the process. This is our stage.
Thank you. So it's like applying the power electronics. Usually the circuit design is an art, right? I mean, different engineered design can develop different output, even they are highly trained for the power electronic design. Okay, so the same question to President Fan. You mentioned about the difficulty, but I think within your company, you still try to improve, right? Yes.
Yeah, unlike semiconductor, actually motor is a very old industry, honestly, right? So supposedly there should be a lot of manufacturing know-how. But on the other hand, in a very, very long time, maybe in other companies they are doing better job, but in a lot of companies in Taiwan, we rely on the old technician. When they retire, the memory retires. So that becomes another big issue because it's so hard to document those teeny tiny things, right? But sometimes exactly the teeny tiny thing design the result, right? Just like we all know that some old technician look at the tooling, you just scratch it down. Okay, what? But exactly that happened a lot of time, right? So that's the things hard to learn and hard to teach, right? So that's one thing we were trying around very, very hard how to document those old technicians, maybe recording them, have almost like a biography, checking. But on the other hand, we're also working closely with the equipment suppliers, right? Because they are working with so many other companies, may not have an exact solution to our problem, but because their idea from other company may give us some new ideas, oh, maybe we can do this way instead of that way. If we're only doing our own way all the time, we may not be able to break through. So very importantly, how to catch all those brands, the other ones, how to work with the suppliers, very, very important.
Great. I think this will be the topic for tomorrow's forum because I think the recent development of generative AI seems like he can capture some of the abstract behavior or thinking of human, okay, or even go beyond, okay. So maybe that will be the direction to solve the problem. But I agree with you that a lot of manufacturing know-how are by experience. It's very hard to document by what we call digital technology. Okay. But the second question is also a general question related to the development of EV. Okay, I think President Fan, you mentioned a little bit that this is a revolution. Okay, so the revolution not only in the vehicle that we are going to purchase or running on the road, but also the revolution of the supply chain, right? Okay, so I think in the market they will also talk about. I mean, you say the Tesla versus 30 company or something. So Tesla is one of the examples. It's a new company entering the vehicle business, and I think they have quite a different type of mindset in the supply chain, right? I mean, but the traditional vehicle companies still maintain their supply, as I know. Okay, so how would this EV trend affect the supply chain? I think this is a very important question for Taiwan. Okay, because if it's an existing supply chain, then it's very hard to penetrate. But if the supply chain is going to have some change, then the new company will go in. And particularly for Taiwan semiconductor industry, because it used to be mostly in the consumer electronics, but how do we get into auto electronics? So any observation or suggestion for the future of vehicle electronics supply chain? Maybe Harutani-san, yes.
Thank you. So I think in living in Japan, and so we knew I can get many news of Japanese automakers and the giant maker thinking about they grasp the whole of the production inside their site. And the second and the third company is thinking about some combination of a partnership thinking of way of the production, and they have some how to say They are really want to do the information or collaboration to the other companies, and so that the system transition can support the second or third big companies, I think. So the chances are not the giant companies, but the other companies has a good chance for that change. And this is, of course, the company size is also related. So two big companies is difficult to change the whole things in at once. So some gradual change can be done by medium-sized companies. Is better for that transition. So such kind of companies and the collaboration between the Taiwanese factories or manufacturing system is good. Maybe it will be the good result of this kind of transition.
Thank you. But the same question for President Fan, but I want to say that I think in the product design domain, the automotive electronics and the medical electronics are almost the same. Because, for example, medical electronics may take 10 years, right? You have to go through FDA, whatever. Then you get the market, and finally you get the money, maybe 10 years later. But for auto industry, maybe 5 years previously. So it's a very long-term investment, particularly for Taiwan industry, okay? The advantage of Taiwan industry is that we can change our direction very fast, adapt to the change, right? But if one thing we can have to go to 5 years, everybody go to sleep. I mean, they just don't want to deal with such a long, slow process, okay? It will lose an advantage in that field. So I don't know, but looking at Tesla, because I think the Tesla is responds very fast in technology and the market. So would this be a new trend for automotive? And would Taiwan industry stand for the chance for the next generation of automotive supply chain?
Yeah, maybe also answering the previous question about the supply chain. Traditionally, automakers have this kind of tiered supply chain: tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. But with starting from COVID-19, because the shortage of the semiconductors, that already kind of overturned a lot of things. So now most of the automakers, most of them, already changing from this tier structure and going to the partnership structure, right? Because in some of the case, they need to deal with tier 4 suppliers directly instead of a tier 1. And that's one thing. Secondly, a lot of even the tier 1 suppliers now are changing. Take the Bosch as an example. I really admire Bosch. Because when they start to change in 2017, in my previous job, I deal with the Bosch quite oftenly. And they start to change because originally they rely on a lot of internal combustion related technology, like calibration, all kind of things. They change starting from 2017, then gradually shedding all those internal combustion engine things out and focusing on the software side, starting from 2017. Not everyone doing that early. You look at the ZF, Conti, or even Denso, they were a little bit slow to react. So actually create a window for a lot of newcomers to coming in, partly because the changing tiering structure, partly because the old guard cannot change quickly enough. So to some extent, they also present opportunity for a lot of newcomers, no matter in Taiwan or other place. But then the question asks twofold. One, do you have the right technology? Not necessarily the best technology, the right technology. What the technology they need, okay? Not necessarily the most advanced one. Secondly, do they see you? A lot of times you may have the right technology, but they don't know you. They don't have opportunity to get to know you. And even you have a great technology, they don't know how to use that one. Be honest with you, most of the automakers still struggling to integrate a lot of the new things. We talk about the new AV, smart vehicles, right? That's the data or software-driven vehicles. Guess what? That's not That's not the strength of the traditional auto company. That's why you see the Toyota struggling, VW struggling, everybody struggling. So that creates another opportunities. Hey, people have the strength in this area, you can help them because they need help. Tell you one thing, quite a few automakers try to bring the e-powertrain into in-house. So they want to manufacture the motor by themselves. It's not easy, all right? Because the whole manufacturing process, know-how, totally different from traditional internal combustion engines. You cannot ask an internal combustion engine engineer to say, hey, tomorrow you manufacture a motor. No way. Because several of my friends came back to ask me, say, can I help them? Because they don't know how to do it. That's why I know that. It's difficult. It's difficult. But automakers have to do that because traditionally, the powertrain is the key core competence of the automaker. That goes away. Then what's next core competence? E-powertrain becomes their core competence. The software becomes their core competence. The service becomes their core competence. That's another big change about auto industries. Right? It's not just buy, sell. It's going to be just like Apple, how you have the recurring revenue through the service, including software. Okay.
Okay, great. The next question is about, I mean, it's also about the supply chain, okay? Because I think with the volume of EVs growing, we need a lot of materials, particularly rare earth materials, okay? So, President Fan, you touched a little bit about this. I think it's rare earth material in magnets, right? But also there are a lot of rare earth material because, for example, nickel or lithium, okay. And I heard that if the EV sales is following this amazing growth rate, then maybe in 2030 we're short of those materials in the world. So within your company, do you see this shortage trend, and how do you deal with that? I mean, at that time, maybe the material is so expensive that nobody can afford the EV.
So this is a very difficult or very big issue for this the future business of this whole EV business. And we are seeing, of course, the slacking will be maybe come in 5 or 6 years later, maybe. So at that time, the production is limited by that material. So for us, the semiconductor companies investing very huge. The large fab is now in all over the world, but some limitation, materials bottleneck comes, so we lose big money. So that we are very afraid of that kind of things. So we must collaborate to know that kind of risk information to be shared by in the world. This is a very important things to control the material supply reliability, and also the one solution for this is of course how to reuse the material. This is the one point. And so I have some idea too. So if the manufacturing is automated and so some parts are very largely produced, but it is good to reuse or recycle. When recycling, it is very used to be recycled. What that kind of design should be considered in the manufacturing stages. And so the very recycling material supply chain should be also considered at this stage.
Yes, I think this one of the issue that we did not touch today is how do we recycle the product. I think this is very important because it's not only the industrial problem, but it's a national security problem, right? I mean, without those materials, you simply cannot do things, even let alone the sales. Even you cannot support the infrastructure. So one of the idea is how do we automate the recycling process? Because, for example, if you make a motor and this motor has to recycle, but you take huge effort to tear down the motor, nobody want to recycle it. So from this perspective, maybe President Fan, you can maybe tell us what your company is thinking about recycling the product.
Well, I think luckily for motor, because most of the material are the metal type material, so easier to recycle. And actually, in the manufacturing process alone, we're already doing recycle. For example, the stamping, because we use the silicone steel sheet for the steel sheet, right? So after stamping, you have a lot of small pieces, and you can use those small pieces doing a lot of different kinds of things. Even you cannot do that one, you can throw those, scrap back to the casting, right? So that's already been done. The other thing is that I must say I'm quite proud of TICO, although I'm just joined them a little bit more than a year. Their product is really less for a long, long time. Okay. Yesterday, I received a photo from a customer. They installed a TICO motor in Kinmen Island, that's the island close to China, in 50 years ago, and it's still running. I was, come on, really? So you build something, you build that, long lasting. But of course, in EV, the vehicle usually like maybe 10 years, 20 years, come to the end of life, you still need to figure out how to do the recycling. So that's a part of things that we definitely need to figure out how to do that. Starting from like Tarutani-san say, during the process, how to do the recycling as a first step. But all the other things already in the market, how to do that becomes a big issue. But also a resource to reduce the damage to the nature. I think that must be done. All right. Just give you one example. When I was in Europe in 2002, the EU was discussing with all the automakers, say, hey, you guys produce so many vehicles, you need to be responsible for the scrappage of the vehicles. So at the time, the union of the vehicles come together and negotiate with the recycling industry. So they came to an agreement how to do the recycling of the auto vehicles materials. So that becomes a system, right? Not just a piecemeal business. It becomes a system. Then once you have a more stable business, then you have the business base to develop a new technology to do the recycling. I think that should be the way to go. How the automaker, again, teaming up with the industries, come to a new idea and develop the new technology for the recycling, right? Just like battery materials, the redwood or recycle already doing that one. But how that becomes a big business, team up with the automakers, then that becomes a systematic approach. Okay.
Thank you. I think this is very important. So I don't see many products in today's exhibition emphasizing about recycling, because recycling is quite different. It's a reverse process. For example, you design an automation line to assemble a motor, but when you try to recycle the motor, you should reverse that, right? But to reverse the process is much more difficult than forward, because for the forward process, you start from your design, so you know all your components. So it's quite easy to design a process. But from the recycling, if we don't know how the product is designed, then it's very difficult to design an automation process to reverse the assembly. So maybe in the future, there will be some company emphasize on how to do that, because this becomes a very important aspect for our product design, right? Okay. So maybe we still have maybe a few minutes. So this comes to the end of today's forum. So maybe each of you have maybe 1 or 2 minutes closing talk about how do you suggest about this smart manufacturing, not for manufacturing semiconductor, for semiconductor or for the EV business. Yeah.
Okay. For our power modules thing, we are making very functional and very robust and very long life modules we are producing. So if your product uses our modules, that will make the longer life products. So this kind of approaches, of course, are at least very important to the sustainable society. So we would like to do this kind of job. And also, if you want to get into the EVs business, so there is some issues of the certification or checking the quality of the parts. This is a very laborious task. So we are also allowing that checking the test. So this is a very hard way. But if you collaborate with some talented companies, so maybe the new company will can enter this business easier. So I recommend you to take this kind of way.
Thank you. I think Mitsubishi support Taiwan industry a lot. Previously in automation, I think in the future, I expect you spend more effort to help our industry entering the EV business, particularly in the power drive or power conversion. Thank you, President Fan.
Add to Dr. Tarutani's comment. I think partnership very, very important. As I just mentioned, when we have a new design or new manufacturing spec or new technology, most of the time we learn from our equipment suppliers. Because a lot of time it's totally out of our scope in the new area. As Tico pushing into the EV powertrain, although it's still motor, but the way design, manufacturers, totally different, and also requirements from the automakers are also quite different from the normal industry motors. So to us, it's a new journey, and we are looking forward to collaborations with like Mitsubishi Electric and other companies, how to work together to achieve a better future for Taiwan. Okay.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you. These two gentlemen share their valuable thoughts and opinions about this area. And I hope that today's audience can learn a lot from all our 4 speakers. And finally, maybe, President, you have any questions? A lot of questions. Okay, great.
So I have two questions to President Fan. The first one is maybe I missed something because I live in between the forum, so maybe I missed something. But I still want to know: are you talking about EV for mining vehicle, and also for you mentioned about John Deere for the agricultural farming machine? So can you tell me why they apply the EV in this area? This is my question number 1. My second question, I'm very curious about you talking about Bosch, the decision making very earlier. So I heard the news also around this time, in 2017. I know that they stopped to hiring mechanical engineer. They hiring 5,000 electrical engineer. At that time, I was shocked. Because the Bosch tradition for industry. So that's 2 questions. So why Bosch? What kind of indication? Why they make this decision? Why they look? How they predict this? So thank you.
Certainly, I cannot speak for them. I can only speculate. For Caterpillar and John Deere's, I think there are several factors affecting them. right? The first one actually in some of the countries, like mining industries, they start to have some regulations to regulate, say, what kind of vehicle can run in the mining field, right? So some of the countries starting to do that, and some of the countries planning to do that. So they already see the trend, say that's going forward, because overall, a lot of countries now committed to the COP, right? So they have the obligation to reduce the CO2. Anything released CO2 becomes the target. I can tell you one example, because Westinghouse Motor work with the oil gas company in the US very closely. Nowadays, they are also trying to figure out how to electrify their gas and oil pumping. Usually, they use like a big diesel engines. Now, even Westinghouse Motor now we provide them the electrified solution to change those kind of things. So sort of that. Certainly, they are benefit to in some of them, because some in terms of the policies, usually when there's a restriction, the government usually will provide some incentive. So to them, it's also getting to a new front. But for John Deere, there's another layer. It's really they committed to my understanding. They committed to ESG, right? So and they are so proud of they've been always a pioneer in the tractor. So they're pushing ahead. They are leading the trend, so to speak, in the case of a John Deere. In terms of Bosch, I really don't know how they make the decision at the time, but my observation, because they worked so intensively in China for a long time. And you also know that most of the European automakers had very big market share at the time in China, which means their benefit in China is much actually outweighed their benefit in Europe. If you don't believe, Audi's profit is bigger in China than in Europe. Okay, so how to compete in China becomes a very important thing. So starting from 2015-16, we already see the trend already changing in China. So I think that probably triggered their thinking, say, oh, wow, there's something big going to come to change, then how they are going to change. So the Bosch's transformation is not one time. They start to change in 2017-18, and then 2 years later. And last change, actually, last year, they also made another big change. So gradually, they move away from their traditional base. One of the reasons I knew that, because they are shedding some of their traditional business to their supplier. They just give theirs, oh, I don't want to do that. You want to do it? Take it over. They did that quite a lot in the last 5-6 years. If you were in the Bosch supply base, actually, some of the business is pretty good if you had the chance to take over. So they had this transition from then to now. But I think they probably see that from China's change and then trigger some thinking. Yeah.
Thank you. I think it's about time to close this forum, and thank you for attending the forum, and thank you for all the wonderful sharing of your thoughts and opinions. Thank you.